flying his drone over the cemetery off Cajun Way in Orangefield Saturday, and he caught these images of coffins floating on the premises. Officials say they have secured the caskets, and they're in the process of making proper identification.
Aware of the problem when Fox 11 Investigates began taking pictures.
We were made aware of the problem maybe about 10 minutes ago. So, I mean, as you can see, we're over there digging right now. We stopped that and made this our top priority right now.
Tiffany Bootson is a ground supervisor for the company that owns Knollwood Memorial Park.
Not just this family, but other people are going to be concerned too.
Cemetery staff covered the grave site and plan to remove the sealed vault until the grave can be redug. Fox 11 Investigates left messages for family members who live out of the area, and cemetery officials also plan to alert them to the situation.
One other time, but yeah, it's a rare occasion, but we've just gotten a lot of rainfall.
Rubio was biking along Keegan's Bayou a typical morning until he spotted this.
I didn't even know what was happening. I was kind of a little scared because I'm like, what the heck, you know?
Police believe water from last night's storm lifted this casket out of the ground from nearby Riceville Cemetery. After Yoel spotted it, he tried to move it, but it was too heavy, so he called police.
I've never seen something like that, but I mean, that was crazy.
Once crews arrived on scene, they found a woman's body inside. An unusual post-storm discovery that Yoel says he's actually glad he made.
2 caskets floating in floodwaters outside of the church.
Their husband and wife.
Dealing with the aftermath of yesterday's flooding, several caskets floated out of their vaults at the Callaway Cemetery and Hillside Cemetery in Panama City. Relatives are understandably upset.
Activist Tony Bostic went to check on Hillside Cemetery after hearing reports that Thursday's flooding pulled several graves out of the ground. Bostic says he thinks overcrowding is contributing to the problem. It's a natural event, and there's no way to fully prepare for it.
And this is not just germane to Panama City. It happens all over the state of Florida. So we are very sensitive.
That other funeral directors with impacted vaults will work together to respectfully fix the problem. In Panama,
graves from Adams Cemetery
You can see it's leaning.
have been lifted from their resting place.
Pretty much every time we get high water for
Across the bayou, his mother and brother are buried. He hasn't been able to check yet, but
just as high.
this photo from Google Maps shows what the cemetery normally looks like. Now, graves are on top of each other, leaning, and in some cases missing completely from the cemetery. From Coulon Cemetery, where a shed and a car have invaded the graves. One grave is completely on its side. Another landed across the street under a home.
Water came up so high in this area that at least 15 or 20 caskets were removed from their resting place.
A family digs for answers, trying to figure out what really happened to their father's gravesite.
This is my dad. This is his bag.
Tonight, we share what they found. Was it miscommunication, a mistake, or typical wear and tear?
A local family is digging for answers about what happened to their father's remains at a Clinton Township cemetery. Investigative reporter Karen Drew told us she would follow this story, and that's what she did. But Karen, I don't think anybody heard it. With some secret photos they were sent to the family showing what happened to their father's gravesite. An explanation they didn't buy, and then a judge's order and a camera crew arriving at Resurrection Cemetery to find out the truth. It's a sight no family would ever want to experience. Digging up your father's grave so you can find out the truth. To understand why Arthur Trottier's family is doing this, we have to go back to February of 2021. That's when the family knew there was something fishy going on. They visited Arthur's grave at Resurrection Cemetery in Clinton Township and noticed unearthed ground where it shouldn't be.
They told me that they were doing a burial next to my dad, and that they noticed that my dad's vault was compromised. But he said, out of the goodness of my heart, we decided to replace your dad's vault.
Story didn't make sense to Terry Jowett, Arthur's daughter. Then these secret photos were sent to the family to warn them about what really happened to Arthur's grave. The cemetery was unwilling to talk to us on camera, instead issuing this statement, reading in part, as part of our responsibility to care for the final resting places for our families, there are times when maintenance is needed.
We can't comment on the specifics of the maintenance associated with this ongoing legal matter, but what we can say is the legal complaint consists of extensive inaccuracies. And that brings us here. Cameras rolling as the family, with a judge's order, comes back to the Resurrection Cemetery. They want to know if their father's casket and remains were treated with respect, or were those photos right?
This is my dad. This is respect. This is gracious and with dignity.
The family's fears were true.
Oh my God.
Someone did just pile trash and chunks of concrete on their father's remains.
Oh, goodness. It was horrific. I just want my parents laid the proper way, with dignity and grace, the way they originally were laid 30 years ago. And that's not the case today.
We were all hopeful that we wouldn't see that when the vault was lifted, and there was a small glimmer that possibly Dad was resting like they said he was, and peacefully, but it's unfortunate that the nightmare continues, and it was just debris and pieces of casket that they reburied and tried to cover up.
The vault that surrounds the casket poking through the dirt.
You can see the vault sticking up, and it looks like a bomb has gone off on top of the grave.
Hazel Turner was buried next to her husband at Patterson Cemetery in Mercer County. Her vault rose through the dirt because of a combination of several factors. All of the recent rain flooded the grave, and the vault floated to the top. She was buried in January, so the dirt on top of her vault was relatively loose. The sight on Sunday was upsetting for Turner and his sister. The day draining the grave, it will have to be dug out again because of the water damage.
There's no way water can ever get into this vault the way it's sealed.
The seal on the vault was accidentally broken today. Some water entered the casket, but nothing reached Hazel's body. Another reason why her grave was the only one impacted here, the family requested she be buried with the vault.
This grave at Lebanon Cemetery in North York is now covered with dirt and flowers. However, this picture shows what it looked like Friday after a quick rainstorm made its way through York County. The woman who snapped it tells us after the person had been laid to rest, the burial vault remained uncovered and unfilled for 4 hours before the storm started. She says after the storm passed, someone from York Burial Vault was back to fill in the grave by hand.
But a board should have gone over the grave, over the vault, when they were finished if they weren't going to fill it in. Is there a law stating that? Probably not. But is it common sense?
Yes. Over the phone, they did nothing wrong. They had several jobs that day and came back to close the grave once the water had receded. The blame game, though, is far from over.
Unearthed from a cemetery. You can see floating in the floodwaters there. The rising rivers has been the crest at historic levels, and streets all over the state are quickly transforming into what looks like streams.
Oh, one of these graves was collapsing. Yeah, I think I got that in the last one, but you can see it better now. See, it's dangerous in old graveyards. Actually, that looks like it sunk even further.
Just found some cemetery vaults lost in the woods.
Up out of the ground in a puddle of water where the grave was supposed to be. The funeral home got crews to dig the hole deeper and even put a concrete slab on top to keep it from happening again. But the Harris family was still worried something wasn't right. And today they say they confirmed their fears.
Caskets have been displaced. Loved ones now nowhere to be found.
And it's not just one. Somebody need to get out here and do something. Do something quick.
It's anything but an ordinary sight in Plainview Cemetery. Willie Brooks struggles to find the right words. The floodwater overturning vaults containing caskets. In cases, only empty outlines of graves remain.
It's impossible to fix this, correctly.
Willie says his grandmother's body is one of the missing.
We have no idea of even knowing where to start to even try to. It's going to just boil down. They're going to just start closing them up and putting them wherever.
Other families checking the grounds, hoping to find their loved ones still in place, only find an unbearable mess.
Older black people in town were buried here. And I'm sure, as you can see, all the graves and tombs have come up out of the ground. We've never had water this high that anybody can remember. So it's not a pretty sight, and this is horrible. This is as bad as you can get. The smell, I guess, death and formaldehyde mixed into one. You know, we walked around a little bit to investigate, and after 10 minutes, your nose starts burning. So it's something we don't wish on anybody. But we know what it was like, I guess.
This used to be actually a cemetery. The Canaan Cemetery, Canaan United Methodist Church. These guys say they're going in, and you guys are going in to get them? Why are you going in to get them?
Somebody's family out there. We got to show respect. This is respect. We got to respect the dead. I mean, but that's family suffering. They have their family out there popped up out of the ground. I think it's the human thing to do.
So you're headed out right now?
Right this second.
All right. Well, be careful.
Nobody else is going to
Now,
go
Roosevelt, this is Roosevelt Geddes. Roosevelt, you used to be the pastor here at this church.
No,
what do you think of this? I mean,
I never have been the pastor here, but my membership is, and it's not safe for him to go out there because that road is deep. And if we can't save him if he goes out there.
Now, I mean, you're seeing right now, just a citizen who says this is disrespectful. He's heading out to get, these are 2 caskets that came up out of the ground. Sir, are you going in? I mean,
No. They're going to let that old man go out there by himself.
You're seeing right now, this is pretty unbelievable. He said it right before we went on air. He said he was a pastor. We're not sure what church.
All them black men standing there not doing a fucking thing.
Take the chance to go out there without a
Right now, there were police out here a little while ago.
Stand on the side and just watching.
There were authorities who actually went and got a tractor that was stuck over there. The casket he's walking to was over here yesterday. It was closer to Highway 61. But right now, I mean, he's headed over there, and I don't know if he's planning on dragging that back to this side of the road, but he seems to be about up to his waist in the water. There are 2 vaults over there, 2 caskets. And Roosevelt, you said, was this a husband and wife?
Yes, it is.
And they belong to this church?
Both.
And now, where were they originally buried?
They were originally buried behind that big tree further back over.
So, to the right of where he is?
Right.
All right, you're seeing right now live, there's a guy who just walked through the floodwaters about 150, 200 yards. He just got to one of the caskets. He's dragging it out.
Matt, can you give us an idea of what this gentleman you described? You said that he identified himself as a pastor. What is he walking across? Is this a roadway or is this the cemetery?
Yeah, it's a roadway. The cemetery is to the right of where he is, and he's pushing the casket out right now. This is Canaan being a police officer.
Matt, give us
It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this.
How far is he from land here?
He's got one
Matt?
of the caskets.
Matt, how far is he from land here?
He's probably about 50 yards. He's probably about 50 yards away from us right now, and he's walking across Canaan Road